This crowd here is from the surviving family members who were attacked last night in a Nusayrat refugee camp. 13 people were killed, 7 of them were children. The bodies that you see on the ground right here, if you count the bodies, we said 13 of them, but 7 of them, those are the children who were turned into pieces and were brought to the hospital in plastic bags and in coolers. They were put all together. So one of these body bags has the bodies of 2 or 3 people right on the floor.
Israeli Defense Forces have continued to brutalize the Gaza Strip while the rest of the world is just mainly focused on the growing conflicts between Israel and Hezbollah and Lebanon, and of course Israel and Iran, which I'm really hoping doesn't turn into a full-blown hot war. Now, the number of dead Palestinians has now reached gruesome highs. Gaza's health ministry said today that over the past 24 hours, 51 people had been killed by the IDF in the Gaza Strip. Israel's several targets included a school and an orphanage in Gaza City. It also included strikes on a high school in central Gaza. And the IDF, of course, provided their usual justifications. You guys want to all say it in unison? We all know what it's going to be. In separate statements, the army said the 2 schools and the orphanage were being used as Hamas command and control complexes to plan and carry out operations. You guys have been bombing every square inch of the Gaza Strip for nearly a year. And you're still using the excuse of Hamas command centers? Really? Really? Okay. But the death toll was highest in a strike that was carried out in Khan Yunis, where the IDF utilized both airstrikes and tanks on the ground. At least 32 people, according to reports, were killed and dozens injured. The city's European hospital said. I want to pause and keep this graphic up. As you can see, Al Jazeera is the source cited for this because it's an excerpt from one of their reports. But the source of information is the city's European hospital. I'm sure I'm going to hear that the European hospital is controlled by Hamas, but I'm not buying that argument. But let me continue on with what was said here. The hospital records show that 7 women and 12 children as young as 22 months old were among those killed. Oxfam is another organization that's been putting out more information about what's happening in Gaza, and I commend them for doing so. So they just recently reported that more women and children have been killed in Gaza in 1 year's time than in any other conflict in the last 20 years. Think about all the wars, especially the wars the United States has been involved in over the last 20 years. Okay, just to reiterate, the damage, the death and destruction caused to women and children by Israel is worse than any other conflict that we have experienced or seen in the last 20 years. Conservative figures, by the way, conservative figures show that more than 6,000 women and 11,000 children were killed in Gaza by the Israeli military, with American bombs, of course, over the last 12 months. Data from 2004 to 2021 on direct conflict deaths from the Small Arms Survey estimates that the highest number of women killed in a single year was over 2,600 in Iraq back in 2016. Well, what about Syria? Syria was dealing with a crippling civil war. Lots of innocent people were killed as a result. Surely Bashar al-Assad caused way more damage. Way more women and children were killed in Syria, no? No, not really. A report by the organization, again, Oxfam. Oxfam is reporting that a report by the organization Every Casualty Counts examined information on over 11,000 children killed across the first 2.5 years of the Syria conflict, an average of over 4,700 deaths a year. UN children and armed conflict reports over the last 18 years show that no other conflicts killed a higher number of children in 1 year. Now, remember that the numbers in Gaza are currently pretty bad, but they're very likely worse than that. So the record number of women and children killed in Gaza does not include those among the nearly 20,000 people who are either unidentified, missing, or entombed, meaning trapped beneath the rubble and bomb debris. So when the rubble is cleared and when we have a better sense of what the death toll is, I certainly suspect that the numbers are going to be much higher. And for those still living inside Gaza, the delivery of aid, of course, has slowed down. It wasn't great to begin with, but it has been slowed down even further. And this is according to reporting from Reuters. They say that the Israeli authorities are scaling down food deliveries sent by various organizations and businesses. And they have even created a new customs rule for UN truck convoys traveling from Jordan to Gaza through Israel. Under the rule, individuals from relief organizations sending aid must complete a form providing passport details and accept liability for any false information on a shipment people involved in getting goods to the war-torn territory said. Now, on the surface, that seems like it's no big deal, right? Except it is a big deal. I mean, the wording kind of covers up what the real intent is here. And the real intent is to punish any of the aid workers who deliver aid and that aid ends up in the hands of Hamas. That is what they're worried about. Relief agencies say that they do fear that if their workers sign the forms and if the aid ends up falling into the hands of Hamas, the workers could face legal punishment. And we already know Israel has accused UN workers of working with Hamas, with being in bed with Hamas. I mean, they've even banned the Secretary General, Antonio Guterres, from ever visiting Israel again because he had the audacity to call for a ceasefire without condemning Iran's retaliatory attack against Israel yesterday. It's just, Iran's retaliatory strike killed one person, a Palestinian in the West Bank. You want to know how many Israelis it killed? 0. I mean, and by the way, it was a retaliatory attack. So like, does Israel think that it can just go around bombing sovereign countries, doing as it pleases with the bombs that we make here in America and provide them through our taxpayer money? Do they think they can just do all of that and no one is going to try to fight back? It's infuriating. It's infuriating. And I hate the fact that the United States is enabling this and is behind this. This is going to get a lot more innocent people killed. And I don't know what the end game is. The end game has not been made clear by Netanyahu other than we're going to take out all the terrorists. Okay, cool. Yeah, I heard the same story back in 2003. Instead of the axis of resistance, we had the axis of terror. And our wars in Iraq and Afghanistan were a complete and utter disaster. We did not wipe out terrorism. We wiped out a lot of civilians. We spurred the establishment of new terror groups. This is just so incredibly stupid. And what boggles my mind is we don't learn any lessons from history, even recent history. But anyway, let me keep going. So a doctor working in southern Gaza told Reuters that lack of food is some of the worst it's been during the war, these past weeks especially. We thought we'd been able to get a hold on it, but it's got worse. My clinic treats 50 children a day for various issues, injuries, and illness. On average, 15 of those are malnourished. Now let's talk a little bit more about the UN and the number of UN staffers who have been killed by the IDF. So the war has taken a pretty heavy toll on UN staff and their family members. So last July, Drop Site News, which is a new publication established by wonderful journalists Ryan Grimm and Jeremy Scahill, reported that Israel's assault on Gaza had killed at least 172 dependents of United Nations staff by the end of June, according to a confidential UN report, in addition to 195 staff members. With impunity. I mean, they had to do it. They had to do it. The Israeli government shows no sign of ceasing this devastation. They're ramping it up, not only in Gaza, but obviously now there's a ground invasion in Lebanon. Obviously, you have Netanyahu egging on a hot war with Iran as well. And they, again, have decided that the best course of action when it comes to the UN is to ban the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres from ever visiting the country. Now, the BBC also reports that Israel's foreign minister, Israel Katz, basically declared that Guterres is persona non grata and that he lends support to terrorists. And what did he mean by lends support to terrorists? He's referring to, again, Gutierrez calling for a ceasefire, calling for peace, without simultaneously remembering to condemn Iran. Okay. It's also concerning for the long-term welfare of Israel. I know that sounds crazy. Like, I've been very critical of Israel. Cenk has been very critical of Israel. And I want to reiterate again, our problem is not with the Israeli civilians, Jewish people. My beef and his beef is with the Israeli government and how little they care about human lives. And in my opinion, that includes human lives within their own country. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the economy is in tatters. I mean, Israel had a budget surplus. I know I keep repeating that because it's so incredible to me. But as a country here in the United States, where we haven't had a budget surplus for decades, since 2001, it's impressive when Israel has a budget surplus in 2022. Not no more. That's not the case anymore. So the country has seen its credit score downgraded and its gross domestic product shrink sharply. Tens of thousands of businesses have closed and a growing number of jobs are being moved offshore. Israeli reservists have put careers on hold or struggled to juggle them with military service. It seems like maybe pursuing diplomatic means of ending this multi-front war would be beneficial for everyone, including the Israelis. But let me continue. While Israel's massive high-tech industry has remained resilient, construction and agriculture, which relied heavily on Palestinians whose work permits were canceled by Israel after October 7th, have been hit hard. Tourism, understandably, has plunged by more than 75%. So again, what is the end goal here? Other than Netanyahu holding on to power for dear life, for his dear life, of course. He doesn't care about the lives of anyone else. Look, in short, the continuation of Israel's escalation is short-sighted. It is selfish when it comes to people like Netanyahu, who does not want to be pushed out of power, who does not want to stand in trial for the corruption, very real, serious corruption charges that he is facing. And you're also seeing headlines today about like, ooh, Netanyahu was unpopular, but he looks like he's turning things around. I don't know if that's true. And I don't know if the people of Israel think that his strategy is somehow going to make them safer in the long run, or is somehow going to make their country stronger and better in the long run. But the reality is he is causing a lot of damage. Yes, a lot of civilians are getting killed. Civilians that I would venture to say the United States and Israel doesn't care about at all. But what Netanyahu is inviting is terror and war on Israeli soil. So if Israelis didn't appreciate and were terrified by the various strikes that were carried out by Iran yesterday in retaliation for Israel's aggression, well, there's going to be a lot more of that. And they really need to question whether or not they're okay with it. I certainly wouldn't be. I think Israelis deserve better. I think they deserve way better leadership. And the fact that we are enabling a war criminal like Netanyahu disgusts me. I will never forgive Biden for destroying his legacy with his disgusting foreign policy, but here we are.
Thanks for watching The Young Turks. We really appreciate it. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. You'll get to interact with us more. There's live chat emojis, badges. You've got emojis of me, Anna, John, JR. So those are super fun. But you also get playback of our exclusive member-only shows and specials right after they air. So all of that, all you gotta do is click that join button right underneath the video. Thank you.